Okay, now we're going to talk about inheriting traits from a parent. Offspring inheriting traits from a parent. So we heard the word and read about the term clone, and both budding and regeneration are examples of cloning. And a clone is an exact copy of the parent, exactly in every way copy of the parent. There's only one parent involved. That's why the only genetic material that's offered is the one from the parent, the one parent. That's all it can offer. So the offspring is identical to the parent that it came from. And the traits that an organism has, like its color or its shape or something like that, when you get that from your parent, it's called inherited. Okay? It's something that was from a parent to an offspring, inherited. All animals inherit their traits from their parent, or if they have two parents, they'll get some traits from one parent and some traits for another parent. And when you pass those traits on from parent to offspring, it's called heredity. That was one of your vocabulary words. So clone and heredity were both vocabulary words from the beginning of the lesson. Okay, now, you've read all about how the parent and offspring, how offspring inherits characteristics or traits from their parents. Well, things like eye color, your height, those are things that can be seen. Those are traits that you can see. But there are other traits that are not easily seen. You can see them if you look at them with a microscope, a really powerful microscope. But not all of the traits can be seen. Things like how tall you are, the color of your hair, the color of your eyes, whether you have straight hair, whether you have curly hair. Those kinds of things you can see. Okay? In your textbook on page 116, they showed you a mama pig that was dark in color, looks like it's black, and it had some baby pigs that were all speckled next to it. Well, that's an example of the father pig must have been like pinkish or whitish, and so some of the piglets are solid color, light or dark, and some are speckled. Okay, depending on what its parents, which traits it got from its parents. So in a behavior, what an organism does can also be inherited. So an inherited behavior is a set of actions that a living thing is born with. The simplest kind of one that I can think of would be blinking. A baby, anything, is born that has eyelids, is born able to blink. No one has to teach it how to blink. It just knows how to blink. That's an inherited behavior. The behavior is blinking. The fact that it was inherited means no one had to teach it, the organism, the animal, how to do it. It just did it automatically. Okay? A less simple example would be things that we call instincts. Things that an animal does or knows, it just knows how to do it. It doesn't have to be taught it. An example might be birds. Okay, when a bird is ready to lay eggs, it just kind of knows how to build a nest. Okay, no other bird teaches the bird how to build a nest, and it wasn't necessarily born building nests, but the ability to build a nest was an instinct that it had. It just knew that when certain feelings came on in its body, it needed to create a nest for which to lay its eggs. And it does. It just does it without being taught. That's an instinct. That's a more complicated inherited behavior. Okay? An instinct is a more complex inherited behavior. Blinking is a very simple one. Building a nest, obviously, is a little trickier. Okay? But an instinct like that is not taught. The bird just somehow knows how to do it. But not all behaviors are inherited. Some are learned. And learning can happen when an animal interacts with the environment or with others, either other organisms, other animals of its own type and species, or other things in the environment. We call those kind of behaviors learned behaviors because the animal is taught through experience. An example might be you learning how to ride a bike. You're not born knowing how to ride a bike. You're not a newborn infant in the nursery, in the hospital, with a bike next to you. You don't know how to do that, okay? And it's not something that when you're suddenly 5 years old, boom, I'm going to know how to ride a bicycle, okay? So you're not born immediately knowing how to do it. You're not even, it's not like it's an instinct where all little boys and girls at the age of 5 get the feeling that they want to ride a bike and they just get on a bike and they ride and they know how to do it. That's not how it works. Someone has to teach you how to ride a bike. And some of you may remember your parent running alongside of you, holding the back of your bike. Maybe you started out with training wheels so that you got a feel for pedaling and steering, and then you worked on balance. Okay? You had to learn it by trying it and doing it. Initially, your parent was with you and taught you, and then eventually you did it on your own. Some learned behaviors you don't need to have a grown-up teach you. You just learn it from experience. Like if you eat your ice cream too fast and you get brain freeze. No one taught you brain freeze. You just know you ate that ice cream too fast and you got this terrible pain. And when you ate it more slowly, you didn't get that terrible pain. So that's a learned experience. Now, sometimes your parents teach you a learned experience, but sometimes you just learn it on your own. If you slide too many times into home plate and you get that rash on your leg, you learned it your hard way. No one, your parents didn't drag you back and forth and make you get that little rash on your leg so that you learned that sliding like that could give you a rash on your leg. You learned it because it happened to you a couple of times. You kind of learned it on your own, okay? So there's inherited behaviors that you're either born immediately knowing, or at some point in your life you just kind of know how to do it without being taught. And then there's something called learned behaviors, which is much easier to remember because it's got the word learn in it. You learned it either on your own or because somebody specifically taught you how to do it, like riding the bike. Instincts are more complicated, inherited behaviors. Okay? Understand the difference?